Hey guys, Levi here with Trident Fly Fishing, and today we're going to be tying a mushmouth. This is a sweet fly developed by Dave Skoke. It's one that I personally have in my box pretty much start of the saltwater season all the way to the end of it. I take it down to Florida, I've fished it many places, and it just seems to work. Works really well for freshwater too, and you can adapt this fly to match any assortment of bait fish, silversides, baby herring, that sort of thing. We're going to tie it on a Gamakatsu SC15 hook, and it does have a flexible spine which aids to prevent fouling, but it's a pretty simple fly overall, and we're gonna get started on it right now. All right, so we're gonna start this mushmouth here with a Gamakatsu SC15 hook in the vise. This is a 1/0, but you can tie this fly certainly smaller and certainly larger, but the SC15 is a real good hook, has a nice wide gap, and it tends to keel this fly quite well, and I just like the way it looks too. So we're gonna run our thread, which is uni mono, and I think this is 4 thousandths diameter. We're just gonna lay a base down. Bring our thread right about underneath of that hook point there. We're gonna move right into some SF, Steve Farrar Flash Blend for our spine, and we'll complement that with some flash as well. But let's get this tied in first. We wanna measure this to be about 1.5 times the length of the hook shank. Clean up your ends if you need to. Sometimes coming right out of the package, it just tends to be a little funky. So get in there and introduce a little taper to the tip if you like. It's not necessary though. And we'll tie that right down with a pin trap. Situated on top of the hook shank, and cut off the excess. You can throw that aside for another fly. All right, so now that that is tightly fixed to the hook, we're gonna come in with some Flashabou. This is a pearl, real nice color for the lateral line. You can use other things for it as well if you want a different color, but this is just a nice standard material for this. So get yourself about somewhere between 15 and 25 strands probably. And we're gonna tie this down right over top of our SF. We do want it to extend beyond the length of the SF, so you get a little bit of flash tail going on, and that will really prevents fouling, and it really works to your advantage when you're in those situations where fish are eating. You need to get a cast out real quick, and you don't want to worry about your fly fouling. So get that tied in and let it extend beyond the SF fiber that we just tied in, and you can snip off the excess. I'm gonna clean that up. Bring our thread back just a bit, and I like to hit a few wraps just behind, and that will sort of orient this upward, and this will all come together to be our lateral line as well as our sort of flexible spine. Get in there real quick with my bodkin and clean it up before we hit it with our liquid fusion. This is the coolest part of the fly in my opinion. And this fly was designed by Dave Skoke, who is a real good photographer, real good fly tyer. I think he won the Vineyard Derby down in Massachusetts a time or two, but he's a real good guy to follow the footsteps of. And this fly really is a testament to that. All right, so we want to get at least the length of the shank, and we really want to saturate this in there. It's important to get this all the way in those fibers. And you'll see whenever this dries, it's not super rigid and stiff. It has a bit of flexibility to it, which is nice. So now that we have our tail done, we're going to hit it with a little more liquid fusion, just because I don't like the way it looks. There you go, that's better. And we're gonna top this fly off with some ice wing fiber. Yellow pearl is the color, but you can tie this fly in a million different color combinations. They're darn near endless. So you'll see I'm just picking some of this out of here, and usually you do need to do a little bit of management with these clumps. It doesn't tend to always be perfectly work with, so if you need to, I'm just kind of stripping this and stacking it on top, and then you can come in with your bodkin as needed And once you're happy with it, fold it over itself and cut it in half. You can orient it as necessary from there. And before you tie it in, I like to just get the bodkin in there one more time, just straighten anything out. All right, so we're gonna tie our first bunch on top. So let's go ahead and measure that to about the majority of that flexible spine. And you can trim this at the end of the fly too. It's a synthetic, it's not like bucktail or something where you need to maintain a natural taper. I'm gonna fold that back just to see how it's looking. All right, I'm cool with that length. Now we're gonna do the same thing on the bottom for the belly of this fly. This is Pearl UV Hue. You can also use angel hair fiber for this, but I just tend to prefer this. It's a little easier to work with, and I just like the colors that it comes in. So I'm doing the same thing I did with that yellow, just stripping it and stacking it until I'm okay with the consistency. That looks pretty good to me. So now we will double it over and cut it down the middle. I'm gonna get in there with the bodkin one final time and just see how that combs out, gets any small fibers or trapped fibers out of your way. All right, we'll introduce a little taper there, like that end for the rear of the fly, and we're gonna manipulate it over the hook point and tie it right underneath of that yellow. And you'll see there's some that just need to be kind of cleaned out. All right, so from here, I'm gonna run my thread to just behind the hook's eye. And just like we did with the Mega Mushy, which is another video that we have, we're gonna pull this back and tie off a head. If you do want to tie this fly in a larger size, I would certainly suggest looking at the Mega Mushmouth video that we just recently did. So now that that's pulled back, I'm just going to build a little head here with some thread and the butts of that ice wing. Then I'll bring my thread right behind the eye and hit it with a whip finish, or a half hitch first. Then I'm going to whip finish it and cut that off. The fly's not done yet, but you can see how we have this nice minnow profile. I'm gonna just soften these edges up a wee bit. If you don't like the taper that's in there, you can take your scissors and get as crazy as you need to. But this is a real nice standard baitfish profile in my eyes, so I'm happy with it. Maybe clean this up just a bit more. And you'll see when I'm trimming this, I have my left hand to sort of brace my cutting hand, just so that you don't make any sort of irreplaceable errors. All right, now that looks good to me. All right, so just like we did with the Mega Mushy, I'm gonna quickly build a real small head, just give something for my eyes to sit on. And if you want a really durable head here, you can use something like E6000 to glue these eyes in and then come back with your UV. But if you want just quick, speedy process, this UV certainly provides that. I'm just building mainly an area for these eyes to be seated on, and I'm gonna actually save myself a step right now and go ahead and just put these eyes right on while the UV is wet. Get in there with your bodkin. Oop. There we go. And if you have fibers that you get trapped in there, you can cut those out after you cure it. We're gonna do the same on the other side before we hit it with our light. So now that we have our first coat of UV, we're gonna just get in here with our light and cure these eyes in. And then we'll do a final coat. All right, that's good. All right, so I'm gonna just get in here and make sure my eyes are well coated with this. Need just a little bit more before we hit it with our light. And you'll see this nice clean head coming together, which, you know, debatedly, do you need eyes? I haven't had a conversation with a fish in a while, but I certainly do prefer the way that they look. But that's all right with me. So I'm gonna get this final coat hit with the light. And that is a mushmouth. I want to thank you guys for watching, and I will see you next time.